You know how some movies just get better with time and stick around in people's minds? Martin Brest's Midnight Run is one of those. I mean, for a film to be released in the 80s and still have a cult following in 2026 is just legendary. And like so many classics, a sequel to this movie is under construction, although it has been ages since we have heard any positive developments regarding it. Maybe it is just extremely difficult to come up with a script that does justice to how it follows up on the original. But the other, more frustrating possibility cannot be ruled out either. That Midnight Run 2 is stuck in development hell. There is a small section of fans that does not want the sequel coming out at all because they do not want to mess with perfection. I guess that is not totally invalid, but a lot of us have eagerly been waiting for it too. If you belong to the second category, then stay with me as I break down how the original film became a massive success and the latest updates regarding its successor. So, why do people still love the original so much? Martin Brest's 1984 hit Beverly Hills Cop had already established him in Hollywood. He collaborated with George Gallo, creator of the Bad Boys franchise, to write the script for Midnight Run, which had elements of both comedy and action. During that time, the buddy action subgenre was a big thing in cinema, with Walter Hill's 1982 film 48 Hours, Richard Donner's Lethal Weapon, 1987, making bank with how the audience was enjoying the on-screen chemistry of the leads. Gallo has pointed out that the movie did so well because the relationship between Jack Walsh and Jonathan Mardukas was especially enjoyable to watch. He has said, in many ways, it is a love story, although it is one that is short-lived. No matter how well a script is written, it has to be fully realized by the director and actors. Every last person working on the film did a terrific job. It so happens that the inspiration for the leads came from none other than Gallo's parents, and he was grateful for the honest portrayal of the actors because it reminded him of his childhood. Midnight Run has a whopping 95% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes and holds a score of 8 out of 10 based on 58 reviews. Similarly, Metacritic shows a score of 78 out of 100 for the film. The natural chemistry between the actors has been praised near universally for being offbeat but heartwarming. I also remember how some critics pointed out that the feel-good factor in the movie is rarely seen in thrillers because they mostly focus on adrenaline and action. The way this film sort of brought all the elements together and ended on a very comforting note is something I cannot say is true for many other movies. It has been decades since the movie came out, and even today, critics appreciate just how flawlessly the entire execution was. Alan Sepinwall called it his favorite movie of all time while speaking to Rolling Stone, as it is something he keeps reaching for whenever he needs to relive some nostalgia. I can't say I have not done the same. Midnight Run is full of tense and exciting moments of action and humor from both Robert De Niro and Charles Grodin. The whole hard-ass bounty hunter and annoying accountant chemistry is truly a testament to the range of these two actors and why they are considered to be among the best. But only crediting them with the success of a film is not right, because the story is the real MVP here. You know how there are some movies that rely on their star cast? I may have started out with this one because of De Niro, but I stayed for the plot. The soundtrack is similarly excellent. It features Ry Cooder's music and hits just the right emotions. How did they even get that cast? We know De Niro from a number of amazing films, but comedy is probably not at the top of the genres he is known for. As per industry reports, the actor had wanted to try out comedic roles and was interested in Big by Penny Marshall, but that role went to Tom Hanks instead. It's not like anyone doubted his acting prowess, but studios generally did not think he could be bankable enough for the genre. In fact, his agent had once remarked how De Niro was not seduced by glamour, so he would be a good actor, but never a movie star. Anyway, we do not know exactly why he chose to give it his all for Midnight Run. Was he that impressed by the script, or did he really want to give his fans a different taste? Either way, I am thankful for his choice. After signing him on, the bigger question was about who would play his partner. There was no shortage of talented people, but chemistry cannot be forced, and this might sound like an odd take, but when you have a guy like Robert De Niro as one of the main leads, it is very important to choose someone who can hold their own against him and not get overshadowed. And so, Paramount had an extremely typical suggestion. They wanted Brest to amend the script so that Cher could be cast opposite De Niro. Great choice, but weird direction, don't you think? Had Cher been involved, I am sure the film would still have been successful, but in a very different manner. Robin Williams was also recommended, and he himself was extremely keen on playing the role, but the director was not having any of it. He wanted Charles Grodin, who was not even an A-lister at the time. Obviously, the studio was concerned about him being sidelined by the other lead, but Brest was extremely impressed by Grodin's audition. He stuck with his decision, which ultimately made Paramount bow out. Fortunately, Universal took the project up due to the previous collaboration between Brest and their executive, Casey Silver, for Beverly Hills Cop. I sometimes wonder how differently this movie would have turned out if Robin Williams were the other main lead. I am an ardent fan of his work, and I don't think anyone can deny just how powerful his range is. But again, a dozen things could have gone wrong, and you know how they say that a director's hunch is usually always correct, because I know that Paramount regrets backing out and not being part of a success that Midnight Run still enjoys today. De Niro found the perfect partner in the deadpan Grodin, bringing to life the story of two seemingly mismatched accidental partners who ended up being friends. And then they lost Charles Grodin. You might be wondering why I am talking about a sequel to Midnight Run when sequels already exist. Well, you are not entirely wrong. There are 3 low-profile follow-ups to the movie that were made for television: Another Midnight Run, Midnight Runaround, and Midnight Run for Your Life. A lot of fans call the trio the Midnight Run action pack, and they were okay to watch. I mean, the reception was not great because people wanted the original actors, but the films were not totally trash. Since neither of the main leads from the 1988 films starred in those, they're not exactly considered sequels in the true sense because they were made for television specifically. De Niro has been vocal about how he wants to revisit the movie because it is one of the works he is extremely proud of. In fact, when the sequel was announced, he agreed to take on the role of producer as well. Unfortunately, Charles Grodin passed away back in 2021, so maybe the most we will see of him in the sequel will be recorded footage from the original movie. Wait, they already tried making this sequel twice? Coming to updates about Midnight Run 2, you might be surprised to know that the project has quite a tumultuous history. Way back in 2010, Universal had greenlit the project, hiring David Elliott and Paul Lovett to work on the script. Brett Ratner was then onboarded as the director of a sequel, and De Niro was also supposed to reprise his role as Jack Walsh. Tim Dowling had earlier written the first draft of a movie. Ratner's history with Rush Hour placed him in a unique position to bring back the charm from the first movie and make it just as entertaining. Now, all of this was reported in 2010 and then in 2012, but as you can obviously infer, the plans fell through. Ratner was accused of numerous counts of rape and harassment by industry insiders in 2017, including Olivia Munn, Elliot Page, and Natasha Henstridge. This made Warner Bros. Sever ties with him, and he himself stated that he would step away from all activities involved with the studio. In 2018, Warner Bros. Confirmed not renewing Ratner's $450 million co-producing deal. While he has denied all accusations made against him, many fans have been unforgiving. In fact, just last year, he appeared in multiple pictures from the Epstein files, some in compromising positions. It is safe to say that these allegations were why Midnight Run 2 was killed. Universal has been trying for years to get the project off the ground, and for good reason, because it would be one hell of a cash grab for them if the sequel performs anywhere close to the original. Maybe the third time's the charm. So, who's actually making this thing now? In 2021, fans were told that Midnight Run 2 was once again in the running. Robert De Niro was attached as producer, like in the previous 2 attempts. Aisha Carr was onboarded to write the script. In case the name does not ring a bell, Carr was one of the writers of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, a show that has acquired a cult status in itself. The studio probably wanted her to add a touch of the same that made B99 a legendary comedy cop show, which combined elements from a lot of different genres and still managed to work beautifully. However, we do not know any other details regarding the story. Considering how it is being called a sequel and not a reboot, I have good reason to believe that it will not just be an adaptation, but will have original characters with their own stories. But will that be connected to the original film? I cannot say for sure, and doing that can be quite a challenge because one of the main leads is no longer with us. In fact, we don't know if De Niro himself will be attached to any other capacity except producer. Alongside James Jane Rosenthal for Tribeca. Jesse Collins has been announced as another producer via Jesse Collins Entertainment, and Barry Walsh is the executive producer. The only cast announcement that has been made is that Regina Hall, Scary Movie, The Hate U Give, is to lead the movie while also serving as producer with her banner, RH Negative. Sarah Scott, Senior VP of Production Development, is overseeing Midnight Run 2 from Universal. The latest updates have actually not been the latest in the real sense because we have not heard anything since 2021. Naturally, we can assume that there is still no director attached to the film, nor has the script been completed. Hall is still the only cast member we know of, other than De Niro, but again, his involvement is mere speculation. As much as it pains me to say this, the movie is stuck in the dreaded development hell, and there is a good chance it will eventually be shelved. It is quite a bummer, because ever since Aisha Carr got involved with the script, I was really looking forward to seeing what it would finally become. Universal has not announced that the project is being scrapped, but then again, they have been trying to get this done since before 2010. It is unlikely that they will give up, especially when De Niro is producing. But that unfortunately leaves us nowhere. I mean, I could at least make an assumption about the timeline if I knew that the script was done, but that isn't the case either. Maybe the studio wants something absolutely flawless, and that is why they are taking their time, or they have internally given up on the project. At the beginning of this video, I mentioned how some fans are relieved at the lack of updates regarding the movie because they do not trust the sequel to live up to the standards of the first film. I would be lying if I said I did not have similar concerns, but I am trying to have faith. A big part of what we are hoping for comes down to the tone. Midnight Run struck a near-perfect balance of comedy, tension, and action, and people want exactly that. There is also a lot of apprehension around the characters because we do not know whether familiar faces will return, and if they do, there is no way to guarantee that their dynamics will feel just as natural and engaging. The story itself might just evolve to fit into today's standard of comedy, with all these ifs and buts. If the project takes longer so that it turns out to be a masterpiece, then I'm all for it. What do you think?